Tori Slivkoff. I lead the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Unit for the University of California System. From the Office of the President, the UC system-wide pitch competition was conceived in 2016 to celebrate and recognize the innovative endeavors of our student, faculty, staff, and alumni entrepreneurs, which collectively make UC an innovative powerhouse. And for the last 3 years, we've been featuring the finale pitch of our competition at GCVI. This year, we're really excited to partner up with XTC, Extreme Tech Challenge, a global nonprofit competition platform that accelerates and supports tech-for-good companies. Today, our panel of judges will pick one winner for the showcase, and XTC separately will pick one or maybe two companies to advance to the next level of their competition. So on to introducing the judges. I'd like to welcome Eric Boitois, General Partner of Benamou Global Ventures, Shankar Chandra, SVP, Managing Director and Head of Samsung Catalyst Fund, and Alessandro Zago, Senior Director for Venture Investments for Hyundai Motor Group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this year we did things a little differently. In the spirit of being more collaborative with our 10 campuses, we asked our campus colleagues to submit nominations of startups from their ecosystems. And then the investors from the Samsung Catalyst Fund and my office collectively picked the top 5 finalists and to present here today, which has broad representation from 4 of the campuses. Now, before we get to their pitches, I have a message from their chancellors.
Hello, I'm Pradeep Khosla, Chancellor of UC San Diego. I just want to say a big congratulations to Manal Parmar of Educational Vision Technologies for being a winner of this year's UC Pitch Challenge. Congratulations, and there you go Tritons.
Hi, I'm Kim Wilcox, Chancellor at UC Riverside, and I'd like to congratulate Eamon Keogh and Shalandra Singh of FarmSense for being named finalists in the UC Entrepreneur Pitch Competition. We're so excited for you. We wish you all the best at the GCVI Summit. Congratulations.
Hello, I'm Carol Chris, Chancellor of UC Berkeley. I want to congratulate Christy Kim of Tomo Credit and Savan Devani of BioTrillion for being selected as finalists in this year's UC Startup Pitch Showcase. I wish you the very best of luck at the GCVI Summit. UC Berkeley is rooting for you. Go Bears!
Greetings, I'm Henry Yang, Chancellor of UC Santa Barbara. It is my honor to congratulate Damien Kudela, founder and the CEO of Cayuga Biotech, on his selection as a finalist in this year's UC Startup Pitch Showcase. On behalf of all of us at UC Santa Barbara, we send you our enthusiastic support and wish you much success at the GCVI Summit. You make us feel proud on our campus.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chancellors. And now, first on stage, Savan Devani, CEO and founder of BioTrillion.
Good afternoon. BioTrillion is a digital biomarker startup focused at the intersection of computer vision and physiology. Healthcare represents about a fifth of our economy and is so broken and inefficient, it requires a radically different approach to innovation. Most life sciences companies focus first on their disease and then ask, how do we enable a clinician to measure it? We, on the other hand, literally flip this paradigm and start with, what can a billion people measure using the very devices and tools in their pocket? And then what do those measured features biomark to statistically? More specifically, we're focused at the intersection of the optical modality of a smartphone and the eyes and face physiologically. The combination of these two have applications with drug use detection, neurologic diseases, even going down to cardiovascular cholesterol, and then obviously dermatology. Your eye is the embryologic, anatomic, and physiologic extension of your brain. And so it is a window into your brain if you measure it quantitatively. Our technology advances what's been known clinically for decades and what's been used subjectively, inaccessibly, expensively. It's the pupil's response to light. The delta in time between a pupillary light stimuli and a pupillary response is a pretty quantitative proxy for how fast the neuronal conductivity in your brain is occurring, but we don't measure this quantitatively. As you can see here on the left, it's done very subjectively, and it's expensive, and it's inaccessible. We believe the future is a one-to-one relationship with the very device that you have in your pocket, better, faster, cheaper, independent, but from a scalability perspective, instead of having 1,000 people funnel through one doctor, you get a one-to-one relationship or 1,000 times more scalable. I can't show you a demo right now, but I'd be happy to afterwards. Our technology is not only possible, what I'm talking about is not only possible, we've already started doing it, and our first application that we can currently do on our smartphone and our technology deployed via our mobile app is drug use detection. And so that's the first entry point into the market, being able to detect drugs of any individual digitally, real time, and in a few seconds using just the smartphone. And so the first application, compliance. Think about getting into an Uber and Lyft. You don't know if they're on alcohol, but more importantly, what about all the other drugs? There's opioids, massive crisis. We were on the radar of 3 senators doing a demo in DC next month, and a variety of other drugs, pilots, drug use screening, and then eventually law enforcement. That allows us to access a user base of millions of drivers to then generate a longitudinal data set to then get into the neurologic diseases that I was referring to earlier. And so for pharma, developing novel therapeutics for those diseases requires better endpoints, faster, cheaper, more objective endpoints. If you can measure disease developing, you should also be able to measure it undeveloping in response to a drug. And then, of course, early detection has financial implications for payers. But to pull this off, you need a team that finesses a really multidisciplinary approach to life, data, and computer sciences, and that's exactly what we're building. My background, I'm a bioengineer from UC Berkeley. That's why I'm here. Went to grad school at University of Pennsylvania, also in bioengineering, and had a lot of other team folks from the tech side. Investors from the tech and healthcare industries, major players, as you'll see here. We've raised 2 rounds going into our A round. And I'm proud to say that from a landscape perspective, we're now the #1 result when you Google digital biomarker startups. So thank you very much. We are very grateful for all the press we've received, the accelerators we've gone into, and being here at this pitch competition.
Great. Thank you, Savin. Now we're going to take some questions from the judges.
Maybe I'll go first. Can you talk about your business model?
Absolutely.
That's a question.
So our go-to-market starts with our first application, which is compliance. What we're effectively measuring is neurologic impairment through the eye. Your eye is directly a window into your brain, and so when you can quantitatively measure your pupil's response to light at the milliscale, temporally and spatially, that gives you a set of metrics that can be used to stratify between whether that neurologic impairment was caused by drugs, which is a short-term cause, or diseases, which is a long-term cause. And so right now—
Your customers who?
Our customers are markets where public safety is contingent on the neurologic intactness of a single individual. So an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, pilots, just met with Delta earlier, And then going further, even in the clinical setting, for the opioid crisis, being able to detect whether someone is overusing their opioids before they get a prescription to curb this overprescription epidemic, and then eventually into law enforcement. So that's where, and then from a validation standpoint, we did a 1,000-person survey, and consumers overwhelmingly have said that in a commoditized market between Uber and Lyft, having something such as this, which gets the heart of safety, would compel 60% with an over 8 out of 10 interest to switch from Uber or Lyft. So if Lyft had it, they would switch.
But can you clarify how you monetize your business?
Sure. So we start with a subscription model with Uber and Lyft. As I mentioned, consumers overwhelmingly would pick one or the other. If you even assume that 1% of riders migrate from Uber to Lyft, that's a $100 million flow to Lyft, as an example, a 3% earnings or top line accretion almost immediately. And then the same applies for the other verticals. We do have, later in our roadmap, as I mentioned, pharma and payers. That gets a little bit more nuanced into their business models and how we can approach. There's a few precedents that are starting to emerge in digital health.
How do you plan to work with pharma? Do you sell data or?
So with pharma, we are not proposing that they use our digital biomarker as the primary endpoint for the novel Alzheimer's drugs that they have in clinical trials. But we ask them to supplement it, put it into their data set, and then analyze what they think of it. Right now, the current approach are subjective cognition exams or invasive spinal taps to measure whether Alzheimer's are developing. A subject can go home and take their measures at night, send that data into pharma, and then they can do the statistical analysis to see if they want to make it a primary endpoint. Any other questions?
There were a few competitors on the slide. Could you explain how you differentiate from the other company? We had some competitors on the slide.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you explain?
Yep. Most companies in this new world we're in, which is called digital health or health tech, tend to use the sensors for kinetic and behavioral use, kinetic and vital signs, so steps and heart rate, right? I think we're past that. We see all these apps in the consumer health marketplace that literally just tell us what our steps are. Those are not real, those are not the full potential of a smartphone. As you go higher in dimensionality, you get more rich information. So you get behavioral, acoustic, and then optical. And so more specifically, we are focused on optical. You'd be hard pressed to find that many consumer health apps that actually leverage the optical modality, when it's in fact the optical modality where a disproportionate amount of innovation is going on every smartphone upgrade. But
Great.
Google also kind of validated us as being one of the leaders just by search results.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Savin. Next up, we have Damian Kudela, co-founder and CEO of Cayuga Biotech, affiliated with the Santa Barbara campus.
Goes forward.
Yeah, green goes forward. The other goes backwards.
Go easy on me, guys. So Cayuga Biotech is developing treatments for bleeding episodes. And Cayuga started as a military project, but bleeding isn't just an issue on the battlefield. It's a threat to health everywhere. So 1 in 10 deaths worldwide occur as a direct result of blood loss. Specifically in the US, it's the leading cause of death for young adults. So that means people who are cut down in the prime of their lives. And the big issue with bleeding is timing. So in the US, for every 3 minutes that you can't control bleeding, your risk of mortality increases 1%. And so we've talked to doctors who liken bleeding to a lightning strike. Your patient can go from injury to bleeding to death within 2 hours after injury. It's not just a medical problem, though. It's also an economic problem. So trauma and bleeding cost the US economy $671 billion in healthcare costs and lost productivity in 2015. So that's more than heart disease and diabetes, the second and third greatest drains on the economy combined. And so what our solution is, so clotting is basically 3 steps. You have an injury that initiates clotting. Then this process accelerates until finally you form the physical clot that plugs the wound and stops blood loss. So current therapies focus on the initiation stage. Unfortunately, what that means is that they can initiate clotting in healthy vessels, and this is a condition known as thrombosis. So this can be fatal. Think about a heart attack or a stroke. And so because of this, the FDA mandates that these drugs have black box labels. So at Cayuga, we're focusing on the acceleration stage. So our drug specifically targets it to act as a clotting catalyst. So we can't initiate clotting on our own, but once clotting has begun, we can rapidly accelerate the rate of clot formation to limit blood loss. And so this is our competitive advantage, safety. In addition to safety, our drug is also effective. So this comes, these 2 pictures come from a rat injury study that we did. And you can see with the clot that was formed by Chi-1, it's smaller, it's denser, and it stays at the wound site. This led in our rat injury model, we were able to reduce blood loss, or were able to stop blood loss following an injury in 5 minutes. So 5 minutes later, there was no further blood loss. So the control clot, it's a lot bigger, it's not as structurally sound, and so rats following an injury tended to bleed for the entire hour. And in both our rat and pig models that we've studied, we're able to reduce blood loss in total about 40% after injury. And so that 40%, that can mean the difference between life and death. So Cayuga has 6 patents, US, Canada, and Europe, the last of which expires in March of 2034. And so our current plan, we're meeting with the FDA in about a month. Using feedback from the FDA, we plan on raising a $10 million Series A that'll get us through our first clinical trial. So that'll demonstrate safety, and we'll use that to fund a Series B that will take us through FDA approval in 2025 or 2026 using the FDA's Accelerated Orphan Drug Development Plan. So Cayuga is a team of PhD scientists. We're supported by eminent researchers, and our regulatory advisor, Dr. David McGuinn, he spent 23 years at the FDA, and he's designing our regulatory strategy. And then finally, our business advisors have overseen 4 exits as CEO of their life science companies, and in total, it's been worth more than $1 billion. So at Cayuga Biotech, we understand that injuries are a fact of life. We want you to live to tell the story. Thank you.
Just to make sure I understand the product, it's a drug that is ingested at the point of injury?
Injected. It's injected intravenously, and it will find the injury and accelerate clotting at the
By the paramedics, perhaps, or?
Could be done by paramedics. So again, our funding to date has been through the DoD, so it can be done on the battlefield. And then we're looking at bleeding disorders. So think about like hemophilia. Patients could also treat themselves and then head to an ER if they had an injury. Go ahead.
What will be the end point of your your first trial? What are you going to measure or validate?
So phase 1 clinical trials, they measure safety, so how humans tolerate the drug. And so the big thing there, we'll have biomarkers, so it's called pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics, how they metabolize the drug, how they react to the drug, and then later stage, phase 2 and 3, those tend to test more the efficacy in addition to safety.
Where are you now in the development phase? You already passed animal testing, and you're going phase 1 and human? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're about halfway through our preclinical phase, and so that's where the meeting with the FDA is going to design. I think we're proposing 2 more animal studies. And so if we can complete that, then we can have an IND approved in 18 months, and then phase 1 clinical trial typically takes about 6 months.
And can you elaborate more on your market, your total market and your target market, really?
Right.
Who are you targeting first? Because it won't be anybody with blood losses, I guess.
Right, so the initial market is an orphan drug. It's a patient population in Puerto Rico that has a hemophilia-like disorder. So that way we can get accelerated approval for the FDA. But long term, specifically we're targeting patients with platelet disorders. So patients who are on Plavix, who suffer a bleed. There's about 1 million patients of those worldwide. And then we can expand into general trauma. So drugs that are in this field, they become what are called blockbusters. So they sell at least $1 billion in drugs. So if we can reach the market, if we can show safety, we'll have a competitive advantage over all these drugs that come with a warning label saying, be careful when using it because you might kill your patient.
So how many people will that be in the United States, say in 5 years, 2025?
So looking at Plavix specifically, 1 million patients suffer an emergency bleed just on Plavix. There are 50 million inpatient surgeries in the US. 3 million patients are hospitalized due to traumatic injuries. So it's a massive, massive market.
Can you talk about the mechanism? You said it accelerates the process of clotting.
Correct.
Why hasn't anyone tried this before? Seems relatively obvious that those are the 3 steps.
It's very difficult.
What is difficult?
So the drug that we use, it's a polymer. It was only discovered recently to affect the clotting cascade. And so what it does is it targets a specific protein that's produced during clotting. It's called thrombin. And so this drug works through it. Typically, the drugs that are currently on the market, they've been biological factors, which are the main sort of structure of the clotting cascade. And because of that, if you add factors, your clotting system can get out of whack, and it basically becomes this Goldilocks scenario where you're bleeding too much, you're clotting too much, and then what we're hoping to aim with this polymer is that by catalyzing clotting, we can get it just right.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Damien. I'm trying to get to the next slide. Oh, great. Next on stage, please welcome Manal Parmar, founder, CEO, and CTO of Educational Vision Technologies from UC San Diego.
Hi. Educational Vision Technologies has created a system that uses artificial intelligence to autonomously generate online courses for universities and digital training programs for corporations in order to enable extremely efficient learning and substantial cost reduction for creating digital offerings. The idea for my company started from me sitting in class being frustrated. I was having a difficult time taking notes, at the same time understanding all the complex derivations on the board, and I wished there was something that could take notes for me so I could use more of my focus towards understanding. Discovered that this was a widespread issue. Students understand less than 1/3 of a lecture, and outside of class, they have a limited amount of time and resources for studying. On the university side, on average, they lose $13.2 million a year due to students dropping out. So we've created a platform which enables students to learn more effectively. It captures all the boards. In this case, it's a 50-foot wide board, and uses artificial intelligence to generate the notes so students can focus more in class on understanding. Outside of class, they can study more efficiently because if they click on any section of the note, it takes them to the point in the video when the professor wrote that on the board. So this platform allows students to study very efficiently and learn more in a shorter amount of time. From the great reception we had from our board platform, we expanded to improve presentations. PDFs are great, but what if you don't understand just by reading a slide? With our platform, you can click on a slide and it starts a presentation at that point in time, and we also embed the presenter in their own slides to increase engagement. And we have extremely satisfied early paying customers, earning a Net Promoter Score of 69. We have a SaaS business model charging $12,000 per room, and universities can have hundreds of rooms. We currently have administrator level interest from 35 universities, which represents $60 million a year in revenue at saturation. The higher education market in the US is $1.5 billion for us, but learning happens everywhere. And the issues that we see in the higher education space happens in other learning environments, including corporate education, which in the US is $130 billion. So in the academic space, EVT improves academic success. For corporate education, EVT enhances professional development. In both areas, we improve the time and to reduce costs for creating online material. For in the university space, it costs $100,000 or so to create an online course. With EVT, it's less than $400 to create a high-quality digital offering. And in both scenarios, we support learning for a diverse population. The offices for students with disabilities love our solution because we provide note-taking accommodations to make the lives of the academic experience for students with disabilities better. We're seeking strategic venture and corporate partners to help us expand into the higher education market and enter the corporate market. What started as a student struggling in class became a mission to improve education on a global scale. So join us and let's create a more educated world. Thank you.
You have to install specialized equipment in every classroom to collect the data. How do you do it? How's it deployed?
Yeah, we lease out the hardware and then charge an annual subscription.
But it's your hardware.
We are built it on top of the NVIDIA Jetson platform.
Okay.
And what is this hardware? Is it a camera? How do you capture the class, or how do you get the clarity of on the board?
Yeah, so it's an embedded device that can be placed anywhere in the back of the room, and it takes in the audio-video feed, and the algorithms do all the processing as the presentation is going on.
Can you explain a business case, or specifically use cases, I will say, for either university or corporate environment, where you somehow quantify the value in time, savings, and all that? Can you just give an example?
Sure. So the most straightforward is creating online courses. So at UC San Diego, they spend $100,000 for every single course they create, and that's because they need studio time, videographers, audio engineers. Our system automates all that. So instead of $100,000 for a course, it's $400 for a course, if you break down the subscription cost. So it's a substantial cost reduction, which enables them to have a lot of digital offerings, more online degrees. And it saves the professor time, because instead of going to a special studio, they just teach their class as usual, and we create a high-quality digital offering for them.
How would you deploy in emerging markets or underserved or poor population?
So with the price point at $12,000 per room, we're first targeting developed markets. As we hit scale, we'll be reducing the cost of our hardware, and that's when we'll better be able to penetrate those markets. For the time being, for universities that want to have their curriculum be open, universities can take the material they generate from us and then share that material to other universities in other countries and also the US.
Can you talk a little bit about what is the core innovation here that is defensible as you grow the business?
Yeah, so we have two patents pending, and it's generating the study material. So taking in the audio video feed, transforming all the data, and generating notes and the study material. And then the second patent is around the interconnection of all this data.
Say more. What is the innovation there?
Extracting writing from boards, denoising it, mapping it into a document, just the conversion of video into notes and other study material.
Mm-hmm. Let me make sure I understand correctly. So at the end of the process, you will create specific notes, which is the verbatim of the teacher, with the note on the board integrated. I'm trying to see the output of your system. I see the input, there is a class. What is the output?
So the output, in this case, is notes. So that's generated.
Notes appended to a video flow.
Yeah, and they're all interconnected.
So synchronized, they will be synchronized.
Yeah, synchronized, and you can click on the notes to index the video.
And this is generated real time, or is this processed later on?
There's real-time processing that occurs, but the notes are typically available a couple hours after class.
Mm-hmm. And how accurate is the notes as you output today versus having to go back and listen to the whole thing to make it work?
So So we chose to not do OCR so we can enter the market faster. Right now it's verbatim. It's just cleaned up a lot so that you can see the writing, and reformulated so it fits the note format. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Manal. Next up, please welcome to the stage Eamon Keogh, co-founder of FarmSense.
Thank you. FarmSense is the next generation of insect monitoring. Pardon me. Oh, pardon me. Computer scientist, what can I say? Let me tell you the problem we're trying to solve here. For every crop that humans eat, there's at least one insect that attacks it. Let me give you one example, almonds. There's a small moth called the navel orange worm that attacks almonds, and it causes about $1,700 of damage per acre per year. To put that into context, there is 1.4 million acres of almonds just here in California. If you extrapolate this all over the entire world, you're looking at for all crops, you're looking at a $200 billion problem each year. So how do growers fix this problem? Here's a typical solution. They place these yellow sticky traps in the field. They come back after 12 to 14 days. They bring them back to the lab, and they hand count those insects. They put the information into an Excel spreadsheet. They run a model, and based upon that model, they might decide to do a broadcast spray. So what's wrong with the solution? The first thing is it's inaccurate. A lot of these insects look very much alike. Even the experts can't tell them apart. Secondly, this is incredibly costly. The cost is not the traps, the cost is the human cost to go to these enormous fields and service these traps and count them and so forth. But the real problem here is the long time lag. By the time an insect arrives in your field, the time you know about it could be 2 weeks or more, and by then the problem has already taken hold. You're basically forced at that point to do a broadcast spray. Had you remembered the problem 2 weeks earlier, you could have done a tiny spray here and there with precision and had a better outcome. So what's the solution? The FarmSense platform. Here it is end to end. The grower places our traps in his field, and these traps attract insects, and as the insects arrive at the trap, we measure physiological signals from them. Those signals are handed to our bespoke machine learning algorithms, which can tell you the insects down to the sex, species, and life stage. It's a really hard problem, which we have solved. And we solved it partially because we have great data. This is a big data problem. We have more data than the rest of the world combined. So the user experience is very familiar. The grower can sign up for text alerts. He can go to an app, and he can see what the insects are in real time in his field and make these tiny interventions to control the insects before they get out of hand. What are the benefits of this? Well, of course, number one, you produce more food because less is wasted to insect damage. And you can drastically reduce your pesticide use, which not only saves you money on chemicals, but more importantly, saves you lots of money for labor costs. Pesticides actually have negative effects on pollinators like bees, which are very important. That's a nice side effect. And the transportation, production, and application of pesticides has been implicated in climate change. Maybe 6 or 7% of climate change is due just to pesticides. So obviously there's a benefit to the society at large. And then finally, insects become resistant to pesticides more quickly as you spray more and more chemicals. The less you lose, the longer the pesticides actually last. Because of this, we believe our benefits are a win-win-win, essentially all players in this field. We have the vision in FarmSense to be on every crop, in every field, everywhere in the world. And that's a $55 billion market. In the shorter term, we're going after the low-hanging fruits, literally metaphorically. Just in our backyard in California, we have 8 million acres of high-value crops, the fruits, nuts, and berries, they need protecting, and we're already in that market. I mentioned in passing some additional markets. So for example, the city of San Diego alone has 40 full-time employees that drive around looking at traps to monitor invasive species. By definition, most of the time those traps are empty. We believe we could actually replace 3/4 of those people with the same benefit. I'm already in trials with that. Our business model is very simple. We have a one-time fee for the trap, but then we have a subscription fee. We're basically the Netflix of insects. It's a very lucrative space, so we do actually have some competitors, but we have many unique technical advantages, the most important of which is we know what insects you have. Our competitors know they have an insect in the field. They can't tell you its sex or species. We are unique in that we can tell you that. It turns out actually it makes a big difference in many cases. We have the best team in the world for this. We have the engineer for the traps, we have a machine learning person, we have 2 experienced entomologists, plus an experienced business person who's done this biotech startup business many times before. In terms of market traction, we have a bunch of customers we're currently working with paid trials. It's important to note that in every case, these people came to us. We have not knocked on a single door yet. There's a huge latent need for what we actually have to offer. We got here by spinning off from the UC system. I brought in about $7 million of funding to get us actually working as an academic, but as a company, we're funded now by some customer money and by some SBIRs. Thank you for your time and attention.
Just to make sure I understand, the flight sensor is in a farm, and the flies have to get to the flight sensor for it to detect any.
Yes, so actually getting the flies or moths that it might be to the trap is quite easy. Most of the moths, for example, have a pheromone that will attract them. So bringing in the right approximate insect to the trap isn't that hard. The trick is when they get there to actually recognize what you have and to send that to the cloud in real time.
Understood, but you have to believe the sampling at the flight sensor is similar to what you're going to expect in the farm.
Sure. To a large extent, we're leveraging off 50 years of experience with these similar chemicals and trap placement and so forth. So most of what we're doing is kind of well-known, well-understood stuff. The layer that we're adding, the digital layer, is unique, but we can basically exploit calibration models that go back 50 years and so forth. Sorry. Oh, sorry.
How many boxes you need for a crop?
It depends upon the value of the crop, the type of crop, and so forth. A typical thing might be 1 trap per 20 acres.
1 crop?
Per 20 acres. As I mentioned, you have 1.4 million acres of almonds. You have 8 million acres of high-value crops in general in California.
What are the limitations of the system? So where does it fail? When is it good and when it's not so good?
That's a great question. There are a million species of insects. There's about 20,000 commercially important species of insects. There might be a country, an insect, a crop, where there's 2 insects, one good, one bad. They look very, very similar. A trap might confuse them. But for most major crops, we're basically at superhuman accuracy. We're better than entomologists are at this point.
How long does it take you to adapt your system to new insect?
It's a great question.
I believe you moved from Zebok to California to Texas. Climate, humidity, insects are different. Yeah?
No, surely. We can cold start on day 1 and get you pretty high accurate numbers on day 1. And as time goes on, a model actually learns and gets better and better and better. So we can be on boots on the ground day 1, and we'll have very good results for you in a month or 2 months.
What are the KPIs for the POCs? What are you measuring?
So
the POCs that you're doing with your potential customers, the proof of concepts, what are you measuring to know that it's working?
We're basically measuring how much pesticide they would apply without the system, how much pesticide they apply with the system. And so I find the reduction in pesticide is what's the key thing. And that can be actually 80% reduction in pesticide in some cases. Many people typically blanket spray every Sunday, just kind of did it for the last 20 years, and think it's good enough. We actually showed that in many cases, maybe many of those sprays are actually unnecessary. You do 2 on Wednesday, 1 on Friday, and none for the rest of the entire year. So reduction in pesticide, which also is reduction in labor, is the key KPI.
What's your go-to-market strategy? What's your first target customer? How do you then grow the business?
Well, we already paid field trials with a bunch of customers. Shall I answer that?
Wrap up.
Please finish.
Already in trials with a bunch of customers. For all these crops, there are professional certified pest control agents. There's a few thousand in California, and they service all these customers. If they're on board, they're very influential, and they will help basically introduce this to the growers.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eamon. And the last pitch of the day, Christy Kim, co-founder and CEO of Tomo Credit.
Hi guys. Today there are 30 million young adults who are denied from credit because they do not have a credit score. Not too long ago, I was one of them. I immigrated from Seoul, South Korea to study at UC Berkeley. When I was graduating, I thought I had figured out my American dream. I had good education, good job, and income. However, I was rejected everywhere. I couldn't get a credit card, I couldn't get an auto loan, I couldn't get a mortgage. My name is Christy Kim, co-founder and CEO of Tomo Credit. The credit bureau system was invented back in 1900. It's old, outdated, and inaccurate. At Tomo Credit, we believe you are more than just a credit score. Our machine learning and AI algorithm analyzes 3 different data points. Number 1, your income patterns. Number 2, your spending patterns. Number 3, your asset data. Let me give you an example. Victor is pursuing his master's degree at UC Berkeley. He wanted a credit card, but he got rejected from all the major credit card companies. He felt frustrated and felt like out of options. Luckily, he heard about Tomo Credit from one of his classmates. He decided to apply. During Victor's application process, Tomo Credit's technology was able to identify that Victor has been saving more than 40% of his income last 2 years, and it has been showing stable spending patterns. Within 2 minutes, boom, Victor was approved by Tomo Credit. And also, Victor can earn up to 20% in cashback whenever he refers his friends to sign up for Tomo Credit. Thanks to Tomo Credit, now Victor is on the right path to fulfill his American dream. He has a credit card, he's earning cashback. More importantly, now he finally has a credit score, so he can be qualified for auto loans, mortgage. He's on the right path for healthy financial future. Previously, I was at Credit Sesame, helping big credit card companies to acquire customers. I know this game. My CTO, Dmitry, studied computer science at MIT and worked at MIT Media Lab doing AI research. And importantly, we are a team of immigrants. We all have struggled because we didn't have a credit score. We are determined to fix this problem. We are live. We launched our product last year, and every single month, we've seen more than double-digit growth. We say no to old, outdated, and inaccurate credit bureau data. We are inventing a modern underwriting that's fair and inclusive for all of us. We are not just a credit card company. We are a stepping stone for millions of young adults who have been left behind by the old credit system to fulfill their American dream. Thank you so much.
Just to make sure I understand the product, when you offer credit to a student or a consumer, you offer credit off your balance sheet. In other words, you have your balance sheet to support the credit.
Yes, we own underwriting 100%, and we take the 100% credit risk.
Mm-hmm. Can you now explain how that builds credit history for the consumer?
Yes, so credit score system now, it is a chicken and egg problem. If you don't have a stepping stone like starting product, it's impossible for you to build credit. Let's say you spend a lot of money on debit card, that doesn't help you build credit score at all. So for us, we are the stepping stone for someone to start having the credit history. And credit history takes 35% of your entire credit score.
Mm-hmm. So the data that you collect on the consumer goes towards the credit score.
Correct. So to approve someone, we don't rely on credit bureau data.
Cool.
But once you become our customer, after 3 months, we tell the credit bureau that you have been paying back.
what kind of data are you gathering before you accept a customer?
Yes, so we are using real-time cash flow data and we analyze your income patterns and spending patterns. For example, are you having stable income last 2 years? And what are your top 3 spending categories? And also on top of that, we are looking at your asset data. We can look at your stock portfolio to see like what are your disposable income.
Are you looking at the mobile phone? Are you looking at the mobile phone bill and payment on mobile phone?
Yeah, so we can capture any data that's showing on your bank statement. So we are using Plaid, the API, to pull the data real time.
So the consumer consents to give you access to their checking account data.
Yeah.
Correct. The beauty here is we don't rely on credit bureau, we don't rely on third parties to give us data. We ask our users to trust us and give us consent so we can pull the data, and users are happy to do so because it gives them benefit.
Mm-hmm. What is your loss ratio now?
So right now we have 0% default, which we are so proud of. So we will scale fast. So we are hoping to issue more than 100,000 cards this year. So maybe in the future we will see some default, but for now we are good.
Mm-hmm. And what is the maximum spending limit you put on the card per month?
Yes, right now our maximum is $5,000, but from March we are going to increase it to $10,000 per month.
And tell me, how many users do you estimate over time? So the first year, second year?
Yeah, great question. So the credit card industry is $400 billion industry, and for us, we are going after 30 million people who do not have credit score. So I think they are the best customer for us because no one else wants to approve them right now. So we are giving them fair access to credit. So that's our main market, and we are going to start with 100,000 users this year.
Can you talk about business model?
Yeah, sure. So we do not charge interest rate, which is surprising to many people, but our business model is all about interchange fee because we are not, for us, it's not about making money off poor people who cannot pay off their credit card. So for us, we encourage our people to pay a full amount every 30 days, and we make money on interchange fee, which is 1.5% right now.
And if people don't pay after 1 month, what do you do?
Yeah, so right now we give people 2 months grace period. So if you miss the payment date, your card stops working, it freezes, but you can pay back us.
But there is a late charge.
We don't charge any late.
Okay, no
You
interest.
just freeze it.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Christy. Now, while the judges deliberate, I'd like to invite Barrett Parkman up here to tell us more about XTC.
We can see.
Cool. Good afternoon. My name is Barrett Parkman. Is the mic on? Great, thank you. My name is Barrett Parkman. I'm with the Samsung Catalyst Fund. You may have seen our leaders on stage here. Shankar Chadran, also Young Sun was on stage here yesterday kicking off the conference. Samsung Catalyst Fund is a $500 million evergreen VC fund focused on data and AI with the mandate of new business creation for Samsung. And today I'm here and very excited to be here to introduce a program that we at Samsung Catalyst Fund and Samsung are very excited to support. It's a nonprofit called Extreme Tech Challenge. In fact, it's a nonprofit that's supported by over 20 different corporate partners, world-leading corporations such as Ford, ARM, Zoom, and of course, great high-level VC firms like BGV, and even educational institutions like University of California. We believe that the world is facing some very serious challenges, and we as corporate leaders and VC leaders should not ignore these and seek to drive positive impact on these challenges. We believe these challenges like climate change, poor education, gender inequality are things that we should be focused on at the corporate levels, and that's why we support Extreme Tech Challenge. Extreme Tech Challenge is the world's largest startup competition for entrepreneurs addressing global challenges. The goal is quite simple: select world-changing companies and help them to succeed. Using the 17 Sustainable Development Goals as a guide, XTC has boiled down those into about 7 different categories that we focus on. XTC looks for companies that are in ag tech, clean tech, education, enabling technologies, fintech, healthcare, transportation, and smart cities. So you can see many of the same categories that you probably focus on, we are also very interested in as well. Just in the past few months, well over 1,000 startups have already applied to Extreme Tech Challenge. They join the program because it helps them to get global visibility. It helps them to meet VCs to raise venture capital, meet world-leading corporations like many of those that are here today, to launch corporate collaborations, and of course, get great mentorship along the way. It's structured like a global startup competition, and we host regional events in partnerships with large leading technology conferences around the world, such as Slush, TechCrunch Disrupt, and of course right here at GCVI. The whole program culminates in a global finals event that will occur in June at VivaTech, one of Europe's largest technology conferences. In conclusion, XTC is supported by a host of corporate partners, just like Samsung and many of the large corporations that are here today. We support it and we get great value from it because it gives us great curated deal flow in areas that we're interested in, and also are aligned with many of our sustainability objectives, and helps us to drive impact in those areas. It helps us to have a platform to meet great startups, to potentially build collaborations. And lastly, it's great to align our brand with UN SDGs and other world-leading corporations, and to really show the world how we really want to drive impact specifically for the world, the SDGs, and improve the environment, improve lives around the world. So if you'd like to talk about that and learn about how your corporation might be able to get involved, I'd be happy to chat with you. We have an XTC booth in the back left corner of the exhibition area. I'll be there after this. Also, if you know any startups in your own portfolio companies that you think could benefit from this program, I'd love to learn more about them. Or you can just direct them to apply at extremetechchallenge.org. And with that, we're going to get on to the announcement of the winners. I'll hand it back over to Victoria. Just one more moment on the final decision.
I think we have it. Great. Yes. Yes, and we have it. Can I get the next slide? Oh, okay. Well, and the winner is, congratulations to Damian Kudela of Cayuga Biotech. Come on stage. Of the UC Santa Barbara campus. I'd like to invite the judges to join me here for a group photo. Congratulations. Yeah. Okay. This goes to Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Nice job.
Congratulations. Yeah, thank you very much.
Now I'm going to turn it over to XTC to make your selections.
We can go, guys.
And then you announce, and then we publish.
I'd like to actually also have the judges on stage to for us to announce the winners. Thank you. And we also have our prize. Okay. So we originally were going to just give to one company, but in fact, actually there are some very high quality companies in this batch, so we've decided to choose 2. However, there was a tie between the second one, so that brings us to 3 startups that we're choosing today. And those 3 companies are Cayuga Biotech, FarmSense, and Educational Vision Technologies. Please give them a hand. Come on stage.
The third one is
All 3 companies, please.
Thank you so much.
All 3 companies. What's that?
Good, there we go.
Good job.
Nice job, guys.
This is awesome.
Yes,
This is great.
thank you.
Keep coming.
Right here. 2, 3. Keep looking here. Right here.
Thank you.
Wait,
Another
don't
picture.
move.
Thank you.
Can I also just invite all the finalists to come on
Yes,
stage?
please, yes.
Yes, and take a group photo.
Chocolate,
Right? Sorry. No, no, go. All right, we'll do it a little tighter.
Yeah.
Good. Here we go. Ready? Look right here, okay? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Oh, there's a photograph.
Jude, can you take it from the middle? Jude, can you take it from the middle? Great. Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Good luck. Good luck with your company. Yeah, be careful. Yes.
Well, you like our companies. We should try to do something.
Thank you to University of California for our wonderful partnership. Before we adjourn to the networking break, I have a special guest to join me on stage from TDK, Nicolas Savage, who's going to be sharing a really big announcement. So stay tuned and welcome, Nicolas.
All right, the GCV team is simply amazing, so thank you. We've decided to create an exclusive announcement for GCV Summit, so you're the first to hear it before everyone else hear it. You're the first. And to give the announcement, I'm going to introduce Anil, our investment director at TDK Ventures, who's been driving that investment we announced today, the fourth investment of TDK Ventures. Anil?
Thank you. We actually spent a lot of time looking into the electric vertical takeoff and landing space, or for the initiated eVTOL. We thought that market was literally going to take off, no pun intended. Particularly, we felt that air cargo is going to be a very interesting space with the advent of e-commerce and logistics. But we also thought that this requires certain key unmet needs in long duration vehicles with large payloads without the need of very high charging infrastructure. We thought, and we found the company called AutoFlightX, and they have their R&D center in Shenzhen, China, and they're headquartered in Munich, Germany. And they had the best combination of high speed, long duration, and high payload. So we made our fourth investment in this company, which is a seed stage, with TDK's expertise in advanced battery systems, in power electronics, and in advanced aviation grade inertial sensors. We think we can bring a lot of value to AutoFlight, and AutoFlight combines the best of China, meaning the speed, innovation, the expertise of drones and economy, with the combination of the engineering rigor and the aviation rigor from Germany. And we wish them all the best. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Cool.